Augustus, how are you?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Thanks for having me, man.
Bless. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I was just telling you, you know what I want? All I want. I get hate all the time for having people like you who engage in cloud seeding and have cloud seeding operations within our country or within international operations. I get hate all the time. And people are like, bro, all of these terrible things are happening. It's like, I wouldn't know anything about it. What I do ask though, can you just tell me who is doing these bad things? And they're like, they are, man. They're doing. I'm like, that's fine. Who's they? And then I get additional social media clips. They're like, look at this, bro. I'm like, I'm looking at it. Can you just tell me who they is? Everybody has anxieties around cloud seeding. Not a single person can produce an organization other than the deep state that they feel are doing crazy things.
Yeah, well, and the crazy things too, like what people accuse cloud seeding of, sometimes has nothing at all to do with cloud seeding, right? Like when you see a long streak in the sky, right, behind an airplane, whether that's a chemtrail or a contrail, I personally think it's a contrail, like condensation just from jet engine exhaust. But
of course you would say that.
I know, as a member of the deep state. But whether that's chemtrails or contrails doesn't matter. It's not cloud seeding. Like for cloud seeding to exist, for cloud seeding to happen, to make more precipitation, you need a big puffy natural cloud to get more water out of it. Those long streaks don't have water that you can make precipitate additionally. So like on the one hand, there's a lot of very imprecise finger pointing towards the deep state or towards they.
Right.
On the other hand, the accusations don't even necessarily land with like what cloud seeding in fact is, right? It's generally like, well, the environment's getting worse and it must be because somebody's modifying the weather in some malevolent way.
Right. And they attribute both drought and over precipitation to cloud seeding, right? You know the thing, there's another thing I go through with people. They're like, hey, look, man, we're getting poisoned. Like, first off, I live here. My children live here. My wife lives here. I don't want to get poisoned. I'm like, okay, that's bad. If we're getting poisoned, that's bad. I have a friend, very unfortunate. She passed away from a cancer, and they feel that it was likely the product of living on a development that was developed over an old refinery. So a lot of petroleum waste, right? And they know this because they tested the soil, and they're like, oh, that's too much of whatever the substance was. Okay,
yeah.
Fine. So we know that. You're worried about lead in your ground or in your water? You can test that. You know that. Boom. I tell people all the time, I'm like, if we're getting poisoned, how do we test so we can see when we're getting poisoned? And of course the answer is, well, it's really complex. It's like, no. If I'm getting poisoned for arsenic, if I'm getting poisoned for heavy metals, if I'm getting poisoned for all these things, tell me where I can test the soil or where I can test the water and find these things. And again, people come back with like, you're just a shill.
I mean, okay, so but to give credit where credit is due, by accident or by ignorance or by malevolence, like it is actually true that there is way more poison and carcinogens in our environment in day-to-day life now than there should be, and that there was like 100 years ago, right? Like we actually do have, I mentioned this to a bunch of people in the past, we have microplastics in the water supply, right? We have exogenous hormones in the water supply that we shouldn't, both from agricultural practices and also like contraception. Yeah. We have all of these like polyester fibers that people wear that are actually impeding folks' fertility, increasing risk of cancer. And historically, like we created the EPA. People don't remember this. Richard Nixon, right? Like hard R Republican. He created the EPA because there was far too much pollution, both of the air and water in the United States at the time. So like, it isn't a whack job or quack or like pure tree hugging hippie perspective to want a clean environment. We absolutely should. And when we're talking about cloud seeding, it's like, it's very reasonable. I totally empathize with people that ask like, is the material that you're using safe? Is it causing agricultural, environmental, human health problems? Like the answer is resoundingly no, but it's a question worth asking. Absolutely.
Listen, yeah. I don't like brake dust. I don't like sucking exhaust from cars. I don't like, people smoking in my face. Like, bro, I saw 2 people last week hitting a pipe like a pipe, like tobacco pipe. I'm like, dude, that's so hard, like a cob pipe.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
pipes have always smelled so good to me too. It's like, I'm like that close to trying one. I'm going to stay away from it. But the point is, it is not wrong. I couldn't agree with you more. It is not wrong to want clean stuff. My problem with people that come after cloud seeding is that they largely lack the basic like you were talking about. You can't make a cloud. Okay. So if we're going to cloud seed, we have to seed, which means you insert something into the water vapor that's up in the sky, that's hanging out there and it's not falling. I'm like, God, if only it would fall. And it's hyper cooled liquid state water that's like under freezing, but it's not condensing together because you need something that it can grab onto.
Exactly.
You need that water in existence. That's called a cloud.
Yep.
Right. And they don't, again, I get texts from people all the time. They're like, just look up today, bro. I'm like, I can't do this with you again. So like, we at least need to get onto the same page. And if we're not, there's no real point in even having the discussion.
Well, and I mean, if you look at Florida, for example, they passed a law that banned all cloud seeding, geoengineering, chemtrails.
Sure.
Right. The state, I think,
did the contrails still?
Surprised the contrails persisted. Yeah, same with Tennessee.
Like, you want to know why? Because it's them. They don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, keep going.
And so the State Department of Environmental Protection, they've gotten in excess, in less than a year of this law being passed, 20,000 reports. So emails with pictures or videos, written explanation of trails in the sky that people see. We don't operate in Florida. There's no cloud seeding companies in Florida. Those contrails, like, as long as you have Miami and Fort Lauderdale Airport, as long as you have Tampa and Orlando, they will keep being produced. And so, again, like, we should have a real question and conversation around what cloud seeding is. We should make sure that what's happening is safe. We should also, like, have means of monitoring the environment for adverse health impacts from any sort of atmospheric engineering. But, like, what is it? Who's doing it? It can't just be like the amorphous deep state, right?
Have you ever seen any of the national presentations, like in front of Congress and stuff, where they bring up Make Sunsets?
Yeah, I know those guys. I'm very familiar with those guys.
Luke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I called Luke.
Yeah,
because his application became this. So Make Sunsets is an organization that is committed to blocking out the sun. Now, before anybody gets worked up, go to makesunsets.com and see Luke with his weather balloon and his buddy that put sandwich bags filled with like sulfur
dioxide.
There it is. They put them on a weather balloon and they let them go. And it's literally analogous to Captain Insano from South Park, who was like, I'm going to punch a hole through the ozone. And he takes out hairspray and he's like,
yeah.
It's like, okay, so this organization, their stated goal is to dim the sun, and they do it one sandwich bag at a time from like his mom's basement. Now, no shade on Luke. I've never had him on the show, but it's like, this isn't a serious, global endeavor. It's not something that's government funded. By the way, you do have the option to buy a sandwich bag of the stuff for people's birthdays. So like somebody's retiring from work, you're like, I just want you to know you're retiring to save the earth for your grandchildren. I went ahead and purchased a sandwich bag full of this stuff, and they're going to let a weather balloon go, and we're going to do our part here. And they're like, yeah. Unfortunately for the polar bears, all that stuff eventually just continues to make its way up to the north, and we have hyper concentrations of really, really bad chemicals with like Inuit populations and people, again, higher north altitudes.
So here's something though that should be pointed out, right? Chemtrail, contrail conversation, yes, like that's one thing, and it is altogether separate from cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is a real technology. It was invented in the United States 80 years ago. Its explicit function is to make more precipitation, either make more snowpack or make more rain for farms, ecosystems, hydroelectric dams, residential consumption. If you want to shower more, then cloud seeding can produce more water for you to do that. But there is this thing called stratospheric aerosol injection or solar radiation modification that Make Sunsets is conducting. Like the notion that people could actually dim the sun for global climatic scale intervention to cool the planet down, that is not quackery, right? And I think that a lot of people have been called quacks for believing that exists when it does. And Make Sunsets, granted, they're a pretty small shop. I think Luke is pretty smart. But you could easily foresee a world where a state or a small like terrorist outfit deliberately undertakes larger scale stratospheric aerosol injection to asymmetrically damage other countries around the world. So take, for example, like we have agriculture throughout Canada. We have agriculture throughout the northern United States. There's lots of mining that's really important throughout Canada. There's lots of economic activity that's important throughout like northern China, Russia, northern Europe. If you were to cool the planet down 2 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees Celsius, that would make, say, India more hospitable, right? There would be less drought there, but it would freeze over a lot of the northernmost parts of the northern hemisphere. And so what we have to have a super deliberate conversation about nationally at state legislatures and in DC is, okay, cat's out of the bag. Stratospheric aerosol injection is something that can happen. Lots of people know about it. It doesn't cost that much to deploy. Like, who regulates this? What is the national policy? What is the state policy around it? Because I don't want us to wholesale ban it in the United States only to find out that, say, someone in Sweden is going to do it and we can't stop them from cooling down the U.S. Atmosphere and the global climate. Like, that's something that has to be discussed and regulated very quickly because it could be deployed at scale in the next few years.
Well, okay. Again, serious conversation. And to be clear, Gates was talking about this 20 years ago, right? And these were conversations. A very dear friend of mine was getting his PhD at Georgia Tech, and we were having a discussion about a presentation where Gates was talking about stratospheric aerosol injection. So again, understood, like this is something that people have been studying and is something that, again, Luke in a very limited scale is attempting to engage in, but it's, again, at his scale, it's analogous to somebody just unloading hairspray into the air. It's like, you're not really doing that much. For what purpose? You know, again, you're essentially just polluting a bit. Like, okay, great, you're polluting. However, what you're talking about is a larger world conversation of what our agreed upon goals for the sustainability of our world agricultural and life systems are. That is completely removed from, can we get a little bit more snowpack in Bear Lake Basin, right? Like, these are not the same things. And if people want to say, hey, man, we should engage in an international moratorium on anything that limits sun rays from hitting the earth, that's fine too.
Totally.
I'm totally fine with all of that. I don't want the earth to freeze over. Like, that would be terrible. But that's not what we're talking about. And once you go at scale to these questions where it's like, okay, how do we get country X to participate with us in this way, especially as civilians, you and I, the entire conversation's over. Because guess what? We'll never, like, how do we get China to stop using AI? It's never going to happen. Okay, how do we get them to stop trying to modify genes? Never going to happen. Now, you and I could sit here and have this conversation. We're not going to get anywhere, one. And two, it's going to muddy the water around the practical decisions that need to be made about our existing water supply. And to your point, cloud seeding has been around for almost a century, right? Like, we live in the arid West. We need more water. This is not the kind of thing where all of a sudden somebody came up with some quackery idea 5 years ago. They're like, let's just full send it. It's like, no, man. I personally know people in their agricultural operations that personally have cloud seeding machines, just ground generators. And they're like, look, man, like, we got these giant pastures. We use propane generation. Like, we just move on. And like, they got a buddy out there welding some stuff and they like put this thing together. No one's like, there's nothing happening, especially with things like the propane ground generators. It's like, guys, you're burning a Weber barbecue, right? You're doing essentially the same thing. And people just, you know, again, we need to bring down the scope of the conversation and parse out the anxiety-provoking topics so we could have a reasonable conversation. By the way, didn't even introduce you. You are the CEO of Rainmaker, correct?
Yes.
God bless it. You and a couple of your friends got together, not to belittle you guys. You all figured out, hey, look, we have cloud seeding operations and operators in the United States. There might be better ways to use emerging and existing technologies that haven't been considered in the last 80 years. Because you get it, going back 80 years or for this time, we've had ground generators and airplane driven, generation. But you guys are doing different stuff. Talk to me about your company and what you guys do.
Totally. So Rainmaker now is the biggest cloud seeding company in the United States, one of the biggest outfits in the world. We started 3 years ago. It was a classic garage band startup situation. We now have about 130 people, scientists, engineers, operators deployed throughout eastern Oregon, throughout the Bear River Basin, so near Pocatello in Idaho, all throughout the state of Utah, California, Colorado, and then some folks in the Middle East. And our fundamental thinking is, like my thinking since I started Rainmaker is, in these arid regions, right? In regions like the Palouse, that is totally dependent either on groundwater or precipitation. Right. If you're talking about the Great Salt Lake, which is evaporating, you're dependent on snowpack and rain. That is the only source of new supply of water that you can produce. We don't have the luxury of desalination plants and multi-billion-dollar 1,000-mile canals to bring that water over the Sierras and the Rockies. We have to make more water in the interior of the countries, because if we don't, then you either see fallowed land, like the state of Utah is subsidizing the fallowing of land right now because they just don't have enough water to allocate to all of their farmers the way they historically have. If we don't produce more water, that's going to get worse. You either have agricultural collapse, ecosystem collapse, inability for industry to grow because you don't have water. Cloud seeding has existed forever, seems great. The question is, like, why are we having this conversation now? Why wasn't it that a decade ago people commercialized and scaled cloud seeding? Why wasn't it 100 years ago if we invented it then? The fundamental reasons were, if you fly into a cloud and sprinkle some magic beans, right, and then it rains or then it snows, that doesn't mean that you made the snow, right? Nobody was able to prove previously that the precipitation was man-made, and that you could measure exactly how much of it was man-made. If you can't do that, who would bother paying you for this?
Right.
In 2017, in Idaho, actually, the snowy studies happened. The National Center of Atmospheric Research, a bunch of big universities, they realized if we have sufficiently sensitive radar, then you can differentiate between man-made and natural precipitation. So in 2017, they proved that over the course of just a single flight, they could make as much as 275 acre-feet in additional snowpack. That remote sensing capability that was first developed in the US, that the Chinese have since replicated in 2021 with satellites, that the Swiss have replicated in 2023, that's the fundamental breakthrough that enables cloud seeding to scale to produce water for people now. We can actually find the right clouds and then measure what our effect is. And so Rainmaker, we build our own radar hardware, we build our own remote sensing algorithms to measure how much of the precipitation is man-made. That's the first big thing.
Man, the first time I saw those radar videos where you see all of a sudden like you just see the snow getting created, you're like, oh my God, this is how, because it's not just like, hey, it's snowing, it's literally zigzagging across the radar screen because the plane is zigzagging in this cloud. And they're like, this was the fundamental breakthrough in the teens that allowed us to say, aha, this actually does work conclusively.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And so now here's what's really cool. Yeah. I think that there's like some specifics that we'll talk about at a later date. But simply put, Rainmaker is the first company in human history to unambiguously measure and validate our results with the same principles of tech that they used in Snowy and that the Chinese used in 2021. Like we now actually have the capability in our own operations. You know, I mentioned that we were operating in Pocatello just last night to measure what our yields are. That is the first and most important thing. Then the second really important thing that we do differently is we use drones rather than either ground generators or manned aircraft. And so what's the issue with a ground generator? Well, it's essentially this, propane grill, smokestack. You put it on top of a mountain, it releases some dust into the cloud, or in the case of propane, freezes the cloud so that you get more snow.
And to be clear, if I may, the point you're making with how this works, because people really get freaked out, it's actually far more of a mechanical process than people realize, because essentially what happens is you have super cooled water in a cloud, which means water doesn't actually freeze at 32 degrees. Water can go down to a roughly -40 if in super clean lab environments without freezing. And it's liquid water at -40 degrees. So it's like, how is that? Because you need something for the ice crystal to form around. Silver iodide is a little teeny hexagon piece. And silver iodide, if distributed properly in super cool water, all of the super cool water be like, oh my God, here we go, game time, boom. And they grab on, and all of a sudden you have the start of the snowflake, which is, you see this in every fictitious sci-fi or whatever movie, what was that terrible movie, The Day After Tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
Dennis Quaid, right? Quaid, and Dennis Quaid. It's like these super storms, and you see all this glass and the walls freezing. All of it comes like the middle of the room doesn't freeze. The freezing starts along the walls or along the corner of the glass, and then it moves up. It's the exact same thing. You need somewhere for this supercooled water to grab onto. How you get that little nucleus where the supercooled water to grab onto, how you get that into the supercooled water, that's a conversation. You can do a ground generator and have this smokestack and have it shot up. You can take a plane with a flare. You can fly up a drone. You can do whatever. But all you're doing is throwing a little silver iodide dust into a cloud and letting the snowflake happen. It's not witchcraft or science. Or excuse me, magic. It is science.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's not even as innovative as some people might think. Like, most precipitation that happens already is happening because lots of clouds do have sufficient dust.
Yeah, right.
Dust that's just kicked up from harvest, dust that gets blown up from wind. And that's what the water will naturally freeze onto in lots of these systems and subsequently turn into snowflakes because of. So silver iodide just happens to be the most efficient material that mimics the natural precipitation process, right? So you have these small drops. Those small drops are too small to naturally precipitate. If you freeze them onto silver iodide, they grow into big enough snowflakes.
And they fall. That's it.
That's literally all. And you could use literal dust as well. It's just that you can't get as much water down if you're using dirt from the ground.
Right.
Now, with respect to the conversation around how to actually get the silver iodide into the cloud.
Yeah. So you have the ground generator.
The problem with ground generators is two. One, if you've got a cloud that's 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet above you, then whatever you're releasing, it very well may not get lofted into those clouds, right? It might be too far away. So you just can't hit lots of the clouds that you want. The other problem with ground generators is we're interested in physically measuring what our yields are, right? We want to know how much of the precipitation is man-made. Well, if you're releasing super diffusely from a ground generator, and then it kind of all gets into the cloud, maybe it doesn't, and the radar that you would measure the effect with, if it's like right here, and then you have your mountain here, ground generators there, precipitation happens down this way, well, the radar's blocked. You can't even measure what your yields are.
Right.
So can you make more snow that way? Yes. Can you do it precisely? Can you measure what the effect is? No. You can use planes. That's what Snowy did. Planes were used to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we can make more snow. But the problem with planes is they're super expensive, right? Just to buy an aircraft that can fly through severe icing, because you're flying through lots of cold liquid water. That's expensive. You have pilot hours.
Are they expensive planes? Don't they just use like basic planes? They're not using hyper specialized planes, right?
I mean, they're not using like an F-35.
Okay.
But you're using something that's Fiki equipped, flying and known icing equipped. So you have to have these de-icing boots that you can break ice off of. They're going to run you comfortably like 7 figures for one of these vehicles. And then it's hundreds to thousands of dollars per flight hour between materials, maintenance, gas, pilot.
Gotcha.
If you could, and these planes, they're going 200 miles an hour, right? Or faster. That means that you can't loiter in one specific high efficiency region of the cloud as long as you want to. Right? You just blast right through it. If you had a drone, you could solve the problem of ground generators. You could fly into higher altitude clouds that they can't reach. And you could solve the problem with planes in that you can much, much more cost effectively get to altitude, stay in the precise location that'll maximize yield, provided that you can fly in these severe conditions. So Rainmaker not only built all of this remote sensing hardware and software to measure what our effect is, but we built the only drones in NATO, the only quadcopters in NATO. They can fly into severe winter weather. And we did that by putting these heaters in the propellers. And that allows us to get a higher yield per operation and also lower effective cost, because the drones cost like 3 orders of magnitude less on the CapEx side, OpEx side, de minimis. It's basically recharging a battery.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the drone versus plane versus ground generation idea.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one of the key pieces that you're bringing here is, look, nobody wants to make an investment on something that has an unknown return.
Yep.
And even if we can agree that there is a return, like 2017, we see that you can, in fact, and we do, in fact, generate ice crystals that come as snow when we engage in this. We don't necessarily know how much. Mm-hmm. So if we spend $1 million, how much are we getting? If we spend $2 million, how much are we getting? And that question mark has limited some degree of investment from individuals with how to engage in this. Is that essentially the nature of what you're saying?
100%. 100%. It was that uncertainty that made it too hard to justify investing in cloud seeding. Even though we knew it could produce more water, do the dollars and cents work out, right? Like, can you actually, if you can actually prove how much water you've made, then you can actually price the water that you've made and then justify the investment. And what we're seeing right now, what we've seen historically is if you do a statistical evaluation, right? So you say like a target mountain where you're seeding versus a control mountain where you're not seeding, it looks like you can produce water for somewhere between like $30 and $100 per acre foot. Now that's dirt cheap, but the problem is these statistical evaluations, not great, right? The reason for that being, say that in your target mountain where you're seeding, you get 5% more snow than the control mountain.
Sure.
Well, year over year, those mountains might naturally get 50% variance in precipitation. And so it's really hard to be scientifically rigorous and tease out what the effect is if you're using just statistics, hence the importance of radar coverage. So like in the Bear River program, right, between Utah and Idaho, we used a Black Hawk helicopter to helo lift an X-band radar into the middle of the basin so that we could have radar coverage over the entirety of the area where we are operating so that we can measure our effect. We're also using satellite so that even where there isn't radar coverage, we can measure our effect, or where there is radar coverage, we can corroborate it with another proof point on what our yields are. That is non-negotiable to future cloud seeding. If not
negotiable as in to verify the veracity of the claim that we produced X amount, you're going to have that kind of precise, I don't know if veracity is the right accuracy. That's
yeah. Well, I think it's
to support the accuracy of the volume.
There is this really weird thing about Rainmaker, right? Where we're on the one hand, this like deep tech company doing all of this radar innovation and all of this like material science stuff. But then there's like an epistemological problem that we have, which is like, how do we know that the snow is man-made, right? And like, how confident can we be about our claims? Because even if you have radar, there's some error there. Maybe it's plus or minus 5% on like what the man-made portion is. But yeah, we think a lot about how to throw the kitchen sink of instrumentation at measurement to have high confidence about what our yields are.
Okay, here's the thing for you then. In engaging, I think when I was talking to Cynthia Bridge Clark from the Department of Water Resource, the Water Board, and this was years ago, so my apologies if I botched this. They were estimating, they're like, look, we pay roughly $4 million, and we get what we think is around 1 million acre feet of water, right? So $4 an acre foot, dirt cheap, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's unbelievable value there, right? But one of the problems is they're like, we just don't have a ton of money, right? The cost for this is split between water users. It's split between Idaho Power that gets, hydropower out of it. It's split between the state. We're getting recharged. We're getting all these things. So when you're dealing with state organizations that have limited funding, like how do you engage them in a manner that liberates their pocketbooks? And they're like, okay, like we like what you're saying, or we like that you might be able to measure it, but we don't have the money for it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, first solution to that is like, you don't just have to work with the state. Rainmaker right now, we have one ski resort customer, and we are like actively talking. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Who's a ski resort?
Snowbird.
Yeah.
Do you ski?
Yeah. I can ski and snowboard.
Okay, nice.
I can sled really well too.
Okay, sweet.
I can tube even better.
Nice. Yeah. I grew up snowboarding, so I snowboard. But
I grew up skiing, and then like when I was 16, I'm like, I want to snowboard now. And like I knew how to ski, so I go into snowboarding, and dude, like it kind of just ruined it. Like first off, I really liked moguls. I really enjoyed mogul going really fast. No, I never skateboarded. I only rollerbladed. So like I wasn't oriented to the side. I was only oriented straight forward. It was a train wreck. And then everything got so damn expensive in California that it was like I couldn't even afford to go later in life. It's like after my parents, after I couldn't like afford to go with a friend and it was like cheap or something, I'm not going to college. It's like $150, $200.
Well,
like,
it's even more expensive now, and it's more expensive for a shorter season, right? Like we're getting less snow. The Icon passes and Epic passes are like more expensive than ever.
Yeah. What's going on? Do you know if the Tahoe Basin in that area is engaging aggressively in this kind of technology? Because they're just getting obliterated, right? Like they've had like a decade of poor snow production.
So, it's funny. I think at the beginning of our conversation, you were like, people blame cloud seeding both for
Droughts.
floods and droughts.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so like, is cloud seeding ruining? So no, they have a very small program on the Truckee side. That's run through the Desert Research Institute, which is this Nevada lab. They have in the lower Sierras a little bit of plane-based cloud seeding, but no, they have very little in the way of cloud seeding going on in California. We have programs in Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo, but they're very small. They could, especially as we think about like the Winter Olympics in 2034 in Utah, like you could use cloud seeding to make more snow to open the season earlier, to end the season later, to get more fresh powder in the middle of the season, and also off of the trails where you don't have snow blowers. That is one thing that we're doing right now. That's like one sales motion that we're engaged in right now, because we can demonstrate really clear, simple value to these ski resorts. Like the more snow they get, the more tickets they sell, straightforward. And it circumvents the need to do any of this like appropriative stuff with the state. Now, that being said,
you still need a cloud there, though.
You still need a cloud.
Like, yeah, if you got a big bucket of water floating over your house, I can shake it a little bit and get some of the water out. But like, unless there's the water there, you can't make anything happen.
Yeah, which is a super fundamental limit to this technology, right? Like the wetter it is, the more water you can get through cloud seeding, but you're already going to get tons naturally. The drier it is, the less you can get from cloud seeding. You know, the point where I would talk my own book is like, in those dry years, it's all the more important to juice what you can out of these systems. But yeah, like unlike desalination, where you're going to get the same amount of water every day in a pipe, you know what the yields are. You don't know what you're going to get over the course of a season. You don't even necessarily know what a given cloud is going to yield, because we just don't have sufficient measuring or modeling tech yet to precisely say whether it's going to be 500 acre feet or 10 acre feet. It could be anywhere in between. We know that it's never going to cause a flood because you have some strict upper bounds on yields. But yeah, we have to. It is unprecedented what we've done so far, but we are so far away from the end state of what cloud seeding is going to look like in the future.
Got it. As you guys develop new technology, the drones have both positive pieces to them and they have limitations to them, right? So for instance, I'm not an ag guy, but let's say I was an ag guy. I'm like, all right, man, I want to dust my field, right? For whatever. I don't know what I'm dusting for because I'm not an ag guy, but I'm like dusty crop hopper style. If you have a drone that just goes up and just starts letting out the stuff, it's like, okay, well, you're only going to hit whatever's directly under it or whichever way the wind is blowing. You're not actually going to cover this huge amount of area, right? Which is part of the reason you have to have multiple drones going up if you actually want to cover a large basin. Because with planes going 200 miles an hour, however fast they're going, I don't know, they can cover a gigantic area. And correct me if I'm wrong, but once the cloud gets seeded with silver iodide, it's not just that every piece of silver iodide produces one snowflake. It's not 1-to-1. It's like 1 to 1,000,000,000,000. Once you get the clouds shaken and that precipitation coming, it's a snowball effect. So the idea is like, okay, well, if we could cover a broader, area of the cloud, then we're going to be able to produce way more precipitation. With drones, you may be able to get it just to the right altitude, but you can't even travel left and right, correct?
No, we can.
Oh, you can now.
And so we do.
Oh, great.
That was both like an engineering and regulatory problem, right?
Gotcha.
Like you both needed to have a drone that could sustain flight through winds and fly farther, and also one that the FAA gave certification to fly farther distances.
Great.
So if you're just going up and hovering, which we were doing at the beginning of the season, you're going to have a limit on what each drone can produce.
Got it.
But now we can strafe multiple miles in both directions. Now that's not 100 miles. That's 2 to 4 miles in diameter of the strafe that you're going in. But
gotcha.
Here's the key. You shouldn't think about, or at least we don't think about, drones versus planes in like a 1-to-1 vehicle basis. What matters is the aggregate water production system. And so here's just like hyperbole. If a plane costs $50 and a drone costs $2, then you can actually have 25 drones, each flying 4 miles each, and then subsequently covering 100 miles the same sort of 100 miles that the plane would be able to strafe back and forth over. And so the system is what matters. The amount of drones that you can deploy for parity in cost to a plane is what allows you to get those large yields over large areas.
Okay, but look around us. I am a simple man.
Yeah.
And the fewer moving parts for me, the happier I get. I'm like, I don't even have like an assistant, right? I really like simplicity. When you're talking about having, like, let's say, 15x number of drones or 25x, how many people are in that plane versus how many people are flying the drones? Like, how many people does it take to operate one drone? I assume just one guy, but like, do you have to have a driver and then other people too?
So right now our teams consist of 2 people at a time.
Okay.
That is a regulatory requirement.
Got it.
So we have to have a pilot in command and then a visual observer to look at the airspace. If you get a better safety system and also the regulatory approvals associated, you can have a remote pilot in command that can cover 10 drones, say, as an example. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 50. You can have the remote pilot in command from our mission command center that's running this, and then just a visual observer to keep the airspace clear. The end state of these systems, though, is autonomous deployment, launch, land, resupply of batteries and materials. That is what will be maximally efficient in the future. We have to drive down towards that. So right now, if each one of our teams has 2 people in it, in 2026, each one of our teams is going to have 1 person in it with the remote pilot in command. And then the season after that, we'll actually have fully autonomous operations.
Have you ever seen the drones that you likely wouldn't, but Idaho Power has this, like, it's awesome. So obviously thousands of miles of transmission lines and all these things. So they have these drone stations that look like, you ever see RoboCop?
Oh,
it's like
the
like
like Nest thing.
Yeah. So they have this thing that looks like a T-1000, and like when something happens to check to get faster to get power back on, like the top of the drone pops up and it takes off and it does this visual observation of this whole area and then comes back and recharges. Like, that's such a gangster play.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what you guys are trying to get up to.
That's what the end state looks like. Even now where we're at, you can cover about half of the Bear River Basin at any given point with your strafe distance, given the system rolling through. But if you can do that totally autonomously, you can drive the cost per acre foot down further. You can increase the yield. And so when you say, like, Occam's razor, I like simplicity, right? Like, why reinvent the wheel? Well, if you take your iPhone as an example, those chips have become really, really complicated in the iPhone, right? Sure. Like, PCBs have become wildly, wildly small scale and precise. You shouldn't do that just because it's cool. You should minimize the amount of moving parts. But if that technology, complicated though it may be, can increase yield, can increase capability, can reduce cost per function, per acre foot produced, what I'm interested in is how to make the most water possible. And the end state of that system is the platonic ideal of glaciogenic wintertime precipitation enhancement, of snowpack enhancement.
To be clear, I don't dislike enhancing efficiency through technology. What I dislike is the complexities and insanities of dealing with humans. That's why, if you look around, I have technology and I engage in very efficient technological, production.
Yep.
What I can't stand is trying to explain something to someone. Like, I've never been good at it. I'm like, can you please just do that thing we agreed you were going to do? And that to me is like, and again, like, I have my own hangups and limitations. It's probably why I've never worked for an organization and I've never had an employee. Like, I've always been a one-man shop, but everything gets done in the way that it needs to get done. And the only reason I can produce is because of tech. So I'm with you as far as like, hey, look, we were here, right? Now we're here. And by the time we get over there, that's what this other picture looks like. And you're going to have inefficiencies and ridiculous production at the onset, as long as the premise and directionally you're accurate and you can keep moving forward. You just have to get over that hump, right? And like, you guys are kind of in the middle of that hump, right? Where it's like, look, we have this premise, we have this idea, we were first to market, or like kind of created this new thing, and now we're working through we're on like step 12, and dude, we're trying to get to step 100, but by the time we get to step 25, it's going to be wild. We just have to get to 25, because everything before 20, it's like, it's a perilous journey. Like it's like every time you turn around, it's like, oh, we're on the verge of like going bankrupt, or we're on the verge of getting like, the regulatory, or like, didn't you guys get into something in Florida where people, like explained to the Florida legislature what you're doing, and they're like, I believe you, but I also believe that you can now change the weather. I vote against this.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly, dude.
You're like, guys.
It was something.
Explain what happened in Florida.
Okay, so Florida State Legislature, they get caught up in this frenzy about chemtrails. Marjorie Taylor Greene is tweeting about it and concerned about it. They propose this bill, wholesale ban, cloud seeding, geoengineering, SAI, chemtrails, what have you.
Right.
Go to the Florida State Legislature, have the opportunity, gratefully, to testify to multiple committees. Each committee we go to, we present the facts. In one of those committees, immediately after me, a John Lennon impersonator came up. I don't know whether he is like totally delusional or not, but he's like in the full white suit, same haircut, like the glasses and everything. Dude, it was nuts. And then he's like, this guy is an eco-terrorist, peace, love, and sunshine. Crazy. And then I get to talk to the members afterwards, even after they vote to progress this bill. And they're like, you know what? If I'm being honest with you, I think you're right. But I don't want to deal with these crazy people. So I just got it. You got to let this one slide, man. And I was like, what is happening with our government if you can't at least, I get that there's political realities, but like just legislating around blatant lies was nuts, especially when it's the John Lennon impersonator that's purporting them.
Eco-terrorist.
Peace, love, and sunshine. Yeah.
Listen, man, I'm not from politics.
Yeah.
You're not from politics. And I think we both find ourselves here hanging out with politicians for various and assorted reasons. Like, I'm not in a business like you are that needs any regulation but it is amazing. The conversations you have off the record with people who are like, dude, I agree.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But it's primary season.
Tell me about it, man. And like, again, sympathetic to it, but those few handful of politicians that do just have a backbone all the time, like, we owe them. I don't know. I owe them a lot. We owe them a lot. It's rare. It's really rare now that people will just speak their mind freely.
Well, I think one of the problems is, like, look, everything we've talked about, this is complex stuff, right? And one of the problems is I think they are beholden to the lowest information consumption and the lowest quality information consumer. So people get really worked up. One thing that's happened, okay? I've had a lot of conversations with the people around a multitude of industries. And I found out after the fact that people I was talking to or, working with in these conversations, they've utilized the shows to explain to people that were really worked up about these things, right? Because it's too complex. Like, if you get into stuff around power, forget it. Like, I can't anymore. Like, it's so out there, and you're like, and it all makes sense, by the way, but you're also like, who thought of this? Like, and who set this system up? Like, if you have to buy, like gas futures, even though you don't need them, so you could trade favorably on like gas, like all of these, and the gas being distributed isn't even owned by the company transmitting it. Like, all of these different things that no one knows about. If you're a politician, even if you know this stuff, which odds are slim, because you got to know about the gas transmission pipelines. You got to know about forest products. You got to know about the education bills. You got to know about the AI thing that they're rolling out. You got to know all these. Nobody knows, right? But it's the burden for them is that they don't have the time to explain these very, very difficult things. So their hands are kind of tied. They're like, listen, man, I got into the legislature because I really wanted to improve the public education system that like my, area enjoys. And like, this person's talking to me about cloud seeding, like, and all these people are really worked up. Dude, I don't know. Okay. I could vote for this guy and help the cloud seeding people, but that's not what my constituents sent me here to do. And it will get me unelected, and then I won't be able to help the public school system in my area, whatever. I'm making this up, right? But
totally.
like, that's the burden that they ultimately come down to, which is like, all right, it's not, I don't even care. Like, it's not even my purview, or I do care, but I don't care as much as I care about this other pet project.
Well, which is why, right? Like, the important thing to do, sure, fine. Like, we get to, and we have to have these conversations with folks in government. But like, because they're beholden to their constituents, the hearts and minds that I'm interested in are just the constituents, just like normal Americans. And the really simple way to break this down is, do you want more snow? Do you want more water for farms? Do you want more water for your ecosystems? Do you want more water so that you can take long showers? If yes, if you do want more water for any of those things, and you're in the Pocatello area, if you're in the Palouse, if you draw water from the Snake River, if you're in Clearwater, Lemhi, like cloud seeding can make more water. It's that simple, and at least having the option to use it to make more water for any of those applications, that's what I think my main message is, and my main takeaway is for anybody that listens.
Okay. I don't know a lot, but I know a lot of Idahoans, and I guarantee you they're like, okay, yeah, I want more snow, but at what cost, right? So let's be clear. When you go out and do like drone cloud seeding, are you spraying heavy metals?
Important question.
Great question.
Yeah, super important.
The only question, actually.
Well, I think the three are you polluting? Are you stealing water from other people? And then should you be playing God in this way? Right?
Okay. The first two, irrelevant. Because are you stealing water from other people? I don't think anybody in Boise is concerned that you're stealing water from Wyoming. They don't care about Wyoming. It's
I am.
Okay,
I'm concerned
that's
about
fine.
that.
Then those are your three questions. Are you polluting? I've never heard anybody say polluting unless they're worried about heavy metal, right? So they care about heavy metal poisoning, right? And then some people, justify that with you shouldn't be playing God. But I'm not worried about that because we have lights that, replicate the sun.
So
you should ask those people if they ever go like tanning.
Dude, I've asked some people if like they're cool with cars existing or like if they're okay with light bulbs, and some say no. So
and that's fine. Like, God bless them.
Yeah.
You should be able, but like, listen, the problem is we're never going to have a fight on Twitter because you shouldn't have an iPhone.
Yeah.
On
Exactly.
X. Sorry, Elon.
So
anyway, keep going.
Are we using heavy metals? We're not using barium, strontium, aluminum. Like this is the list that commonly comes up on X for whatever reason.
Arsenic? You using arsenic?
We're not using arsenic. We're not using cyanide. We use silver iodide. Silver is a metal, right? But the question is that causing any damage? Is that causing any environmental, ecological, or human health effects that we don't want?
Isn't the crust 8%? No, that's aluminum. Excuse me.
It's aluminum. That's
aluminum. Because people take a soil sample. They're like, it's aluminum. It's like, yeah, 8% of the Earth's crust is aluminum, bro.
I think about 2 parts per million of American soil is silver species of some kind, is silver. Cloud seeding in a given operation releases about 50 grams, so like 7 Skittles worth. We release 7 Skittles worth of silver iodide over hundreds of thousands of acres. And one thing that we have the luxury of is knowing from 80 years of previous cloud seeding how much has accumulated in the soil and in the water in these areas. And after 80 years of cloud seeding in the most concentrated basins where cloud seeding has gone on forever, you see an increase of about 8 parts per trillion silver iodide. So there's 2 parts per million naturally in the soil. Everybody's fine. Silver increases from cloud seeding for decades have been about 8 parts per trillion. The clean water...
So you go from 2 per million, you pass the billions, and you go to trillions, and you got 8 of those.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. So you are... What's that? Like 1 million times less than what's there naturally already. Then the clean water and clean air drinking standards say, or like water standards say, that the maximum tolerable amount of silver or silver iodide in the water is 100 parts per billion. You're still about 100,000 times beneath the lowest threshold set by the EPA. If you made that threshold 100 times more severe and it was 1 part per billion, you're still 100 times less than the lowest threshold, even after 80 years of cloud seeding. So,
okay, but doesn't this, all of what you're saying, yes, someone go to the lake, test the water, and if you see any silver in there, let us know. That's all it comes down to, because the anxiety, you're talking about all these very specific numbers where it's like 100 times, blah, 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 blah. It's like, listen, go find some. Just go find some. And if you can find some, we can have a conversation.
Totally.
But if you find arsenic, that's not us. Like, I have a neighbor who has arsenic in her well. And that well has nothing to do with cloud seeding. It's like 200 feet underground, and there's I got a whole ton of iron. Like, my sprinklers constantly get clogged. There's iron like crazy. It's like, okay, it's not arsenic. Aluminum, they're not doing aluminum. Borium, whatever it is, like, that's not happening. If you find silver, let me know. Also, let Hecla Silver know. Like, let's engage in just being clear. This is the one substance that you should be concerned with. And if you can find that, let's have a conversation. But in the absence of that, I don't know what to tell you. These other things exist in the natural environment. So you see people frequently. They're like, I sent my water to the lab, or I had some smudge on my car and I sent it to the lab, and it's all like aluminum and heavy metals and all these things. It's like, that's fine. It has nothing to do with the cloud seeding operation.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, it's because like the car in front of you is breaking down, right, and kicking up aluminum behind you. Like that's what a lot and to the point I made earlier, like there is a ton of pollution, right? There is actually in many places more iron, copper, aluminum, just dust that we're inhaling than we should. But that doesn't mean that it's from weather modification or geoengineering. If it's silver iodide, yes, let's talk about the concentration. Yes, let's talk about whether you live next door to a silver mine, because that would affect it.
Right.
But it's not from what you might initially and immediately expect.
We have industrial operations and have forever, since the Industrial Revolution, of course. These things have not always been the cleanest, and we should have clean stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like I want clean air. I want clean water. We should tend towards that directionally. The problem I have around this conversation with the environment is that if you made a list of the 100 things that were causing the most pollution, okay, even if you want to say cloud seeding is somewhere on there, that we have easily 99 others that are ahead of it. And everybody's focus is on cloud. Nobody's focused on brake dust. Why is that? Nobody's focused on, I don't even know what other things. Like we have all kinds of problems with pollution. This is not, we could all focus 100% of our energy here. It would make no difference. It was the same argument that people had when people were very critical of the United States emissions from coal-fired power plants. Mm-hmm. They're like, we could terminate all coal-fired power plants. We could terminate all automobiles. Like we are, like 3.5% of the world's population.
No, China and India.
India don't care at all. Like we are a blip. It wouldn't change anything. Yet we were, bro, when I was in the former state, it was back in the day.
Former state.
The state that shall not be named. We had purchased all of these solar panels and backup batteries. So like we had 2 Tesla Powerwalls, we had 2 rounds of solar panels. Like a buddy of mine had a solar company, so he hooked us up with them. Like all these things, we couldn't even turn on our air conditioner because it couldn't turn over the compressor. Wow. Like it wasn't strong enough. I was like, come on, Tesla, right? And it was like, okay. At the same time we're doing this, they're telling everybody to stop using electricity because we're running out of electricity, and then they're requiring people buy electric water heaters and electric clothes dryers and try to buy electric cars. Mm-hmm. And they're saying everybody stop using electricity. I'm like, you guys are just, God bless it.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's something that like, okay. Whether you like electrification or not, whether you think EVs are cool or a total disaster, like the sentiment that motivates them, misguided though it often is like things should be clean. Awesome. But the problem is, or at least over the course of my lifetime, like, I think about Solyndra, right? If you remember that,
Of course I remember that.
Yeah. Like you can't say we should be cleaner and that should make everybody's quality of life worse, right? And you probably shouldn't say like, we're going to burn the dirtiest, nastiest coal plant for the cheapest possible energy, and everyone's going to get lung cancer because that's what's going to make us the most money, and the environment's going to get really bad. Like, I don't understand why, like, historically, Democrats have said, let's make everything clean, and it's fine if it crushes the economy. And Republicans, at least when I was really young, said, like, let's burn the nastiest coal in the world, and who cares about the environment? Like, GDP has to go up. Why can't you actually just have both, have technologies, have policies that say, yes, we want things to be clean, and there are certain technologies, take for example natural gas, nuclear, that are really clean, that make dirt cheap energy. Let's scale those, right? That is a layup, I think, for everybody. And that's kind of where I come from with cloud seeding too, right? Like we shouldn't have to curtail people's water use to save the environment. We shouldn't have to build we shouldn't let the environment die because we insist on the farms getting all the water. Like, let's just make more water. That's the perspective that I come from.
Listen, I appreciate that, but you live there. It's like, anybody you live around have beautiful, nice, gigantic, luscious lawns?
No.
No. And why? Well, I don't know, because 5% of the entire water usage of the entire state is residential water usage. And of that residential water usage, some small portion is actual landscape. It's not like you're toiling, you're cleaning, whatever. Okay, so we're in a drought, or you're in a drought. I'm not. You're in a drought. And I know, let's just make people's lives hell, because it's going to solve nothing. Because 95% of the usage is still industrial and agriculture. No one cares. No, so when you're like, hey man, why don't we make good policies? Like, my guy, come on now. It's not the obligation of those people to make good policies. It's the obligation of those people to get reelected and convince people that they're doing something. Like, people want to have an effect on you. You need to give people an opportunity to feel like they're changing something. That's what people really want. And they want to feel like they're on the right side. Instead of dealing with very complex and nuanced problems around water systems, they're like, I know, let's just tell everybody that if they kill their front lawn, they're like, they're doing it. They're on the right side of history. Yeah. Instead of having a very difficult conversation by being like, honestly, your lawn doesn't have anything to do with this, or your lawn has like 1 or 2% to do with this. Reality, we're going after like the 50%, but nobody wants to have that conversation.
Yeah. But I guess first, the worst thing even than like banning Scotch turf lawns is like, I think Las Vegas spends money subsidizing people to transition their lawns to like rocks. Right. And that's like, okay, you're going to spend my taxes to tear up a bunch of turf and then put a bunch of rocks down and like maybe a succulent plant, right? Like, that probably is not how the people of Nevada's tax. Well, that's not how I would legislate it.
They also become heat islands.
Yeah.
Right, because all those rocks absorb enormous amount of heat.
You need more green space if you don't want it to become sweltering and gross.
Right, and then you're spending more energy on air conditioning and stuff because you got a whole front yard full of like lava rock that's now like 1,000 degrees.
And you're actually getting less natural precipitation because of that. So there's this virtuous cycle, or like really nefarious cycle, where the more water you have, the more green space you have, the more water you will get, because the plants naturally emit moisture and aerosols that induces precipitation. And so if you don't make more green space, if you don't make more water, then you're going to go in the opposite direction. And so, fine.
Go Vegas. The Las Vegas.
Yeah. The Vegas, for all of its issues, right? Like, I'm not a gambling guy. I'm not...
Big shows guy. You go to shows.
Musical theater, actually. Yeah, I like to dress up and dance.
Dude, I tried to go to a Vegas show once, and it was like, I'm not a big gambling guy.
Yeah.
I'm there with my wife. We're like, okay, we'll go to a show. We like left. We're like, this is not that entertaining.
The show wasn't.
The show was like.
It's like magic. You went to see magic or something?
Listen, dude, I'm not a very cultured guy. Like, look at me. I'm just like, I got dragged to Wicked once, and I was like, all right, cool enough, whatever. And then one of my students, SAT students, was like, Wicked. I was like, why? What's wrong? She's like, it's like the one show everybody sees, and then they think they love theater. And it's like, then you drag them to Phantom of the Opera, and they take off.
I liked Phantom of the Opera.
I'm sure you did.
Kill me. Yeah, sue me.
You ever see that, like, a big production of the Nutcracker?
So I grew up in Connecticut, so I would go in, I think they had it in, what is it, Carnegie Music Hall? Carnegie Music Hall, yeah.
Yeah, I saw one in San Francisco when I was a little kid. Somebody took me, and I was like, okay, cool enough, not worth the time.
Fair enough.
Like, I enjoyed it and everything, and dancers great, and I was like, why are the dudes all in tights? Again, I am not a cultured individual. I was like, it's not jiving with me.
Yeah.
But if you turned on American Gladiator, I was all in.
Fair enough. I mean, it's I think that the limit is probably in, like, the most contemporary art stuff. Like, I was at this performance where it was contemporary dance, and it was just people throwing themselves at the ground as hard as they could. And I'm not joking, like violently throwing themselves on the floor, trying to like not quite injure themselves, but prove how nimble they were because they weren't getting hurt by throwing themselves headfirst at the ground.
Are you sure this wasn't WWE? It sounds a lot like it.
It does, and the dudes are in tights in both cases, actually.
Indeed they are.
So I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that it was like a weird contemporary thing. I don't like that kind of art.
I went to the Nutcracker. One of my neighbor's daughters was the Sugar Plum Fairy. And It was incredible. But I enjoyed that now because I could appreciate the difficulty of what the young people were doing, right? Like she was 17. She had been a ballerina in dance forever. And she was like at the pinnacle of her career. She was like 17, 18. And it was great. I was like, that was really, really fantastic. But to go see a bunch of 30-year-olds do it, I was like, not as much, man. I don't know.
I mean, I'll catch some flack for this one too. I saw a bunch of people in Hamilton, and I liked it. I thought Hamilton was good. I don't know if you're
but you're a cultured dude. I am an idiot. It's like I also don't watch professional sports. Like I
don't do that either.
It's not my thing. You went to Cal. We're both. Did you go to the football games?
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I mean,
I went to like 3. I'm like, I don't care about this at all.
I'm not proud of this of the state I was in when I went to those football games. I don't think that I was.
I'm not proud of the state you were in either. But what I'm telling you right now is that student section is in the blinding sun, and you got to do something to survive the game.
Yeah.
And you couldn't sit down. Like that was the worst part. You're like standing for 3 hours in the alumni sections in the nice shaded area, and they're sitting down. Forget those people.
Yeah,
man. My greatest memories of that stadium is when I'd go and run the stadiums for like an hour at a time. That was it. That was like, I felt more connected to those, like, the A to double Z than I did any other time in my life.
I think my favorite moments were we had to like break into it and take a picture from the center of the football field at night.
Well, we're not talking about places we broke into when we were in college, are we? No, we're not.
Okay.
Anyway, back to this. Bottom line is your position is, look, we need more precipitation, be it snow, be it rain. That's it. And to the degree that we can do that and help people understand what is and is not happening, that's really important. To the degree that we can provide taxpayers and tax-funded systems more accuracy with how much and how and when and where we're producing this precipitation, that's a positive thing. And to the degree that we can continue moving down the path directionally towards the point where we have autonomous, obviously setups that just take off and go do these things, or we have a remote operator that runs these drones through clouds. Why didn't you guys just do like not the quadcopters, but like the classic looking drone?
If you're going to fly 100 miles over residential areas, even low population, it's way, way, way more scrutinous a process to get approved with the FAA. So eventually we'll do a fixed wing, but if you're covering a small area, if you're not flying over someone's house, much easier to be approved.
Understood.
Yep.
So bottom line is that's really what you guys are coming after. And it's like, let's have as accurate a set of data. Let's be as transparent as possible. Let's directionally tend towards, even if we're at an inefficient part of it now, let's tend towards the hyper efficiency that we know we're all eventually moving towards. And that's what we need to do. And somebody needs to start moving down that path. As clunky and frustrating as it may be, we need to get there.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, if you looked at us like 2 years ago, it was really clunky and frustrating. This past year, like our first real large operational season, night and day, right? Like between our operators that are out in the field, between the drones, the software that is piloting them, our ability to validate with radar, satellite, the yields that we're getting from these operations that we can now measure, like truly night and day difference in effect. And so, yeah, step 12 is not step 25. It's not step 100 in the process of optimizing this, but
it's not step 1 to 11.
Yeah.
We're on 12 now.
Yep.
Here's a broader question for you. You guys likely, or you could tell me, did you like grow up with your dad as a weatherman?
No. Dude, I didn't think much at all about the weather. I did not think about starting a company. That was not my plan. My dad was in sales. My mom was a pattern maker and then stayed at home to raise me and my sister.
Okay. So here's the thing. You, with no connection to this, and again, I deeply feel this problem because I'm engaging in it right now today. With no connection to this industry, you step in. This industry's been operating one way, and you interject yourself and you're like, here I am, guys. Here we are. We're going to do this thing. Like, what has it been for you to engage with these large, international organizations and operators that have been doing it one way since the beginning?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at first, I don't think that I had nearly the requisite knowledge and context and even maturity. Like I started the company when I was 23. And so I think that, I looked like a 23-year-old with pie in the sky dreams and like a glimmer in my eye, but people are like, okay, get lost.
Twinkle.
Yeah,
right there.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
a twinkle.
Exactly. At first, people were like, sounds nice, kid, get lost. When you're young, though, you have the luxury of like being more delusional and insisting on running through those walls and denials. Eventually, though, we started to get better at measuring our effect. We started to learn what these government agencies or private sector customers are concerned about, the language that they talk in. How do you make more water, right? Like, how do you prove that you're making more water? What are the economic benefits of this? What are the input costs? As that's gone on, I mean, I'll say to some extent for myself, but really for the team, like everybody has leveled up so much in their ability to run a good design process for our new variants of the drone, or to engage with like the government stakeholders that matter, to make sure that our reporting is up to scratch, to make sure that our like stakeholder engagement is up to scratch. We're still not perfect. We're still so far from that, but it's been a pretty aggressive and violent 3 years of learning. That's for sure. It was trial by fire, 100%.
Dude, the crucible you go through. Like when I started the show, I didn't know. You want to know something embarrassing? I thought Ada County was just Eagle and Meridian. I didn't even know Ada County included Boise. Okay. I thought Boise was in Boise County.
Uh-huh.
I had the sheriff in. It was like episode 20.
No.
How embarrassing. I had the sheriff in. It wasn't even episode 20. It was like episode 10. And literally a buddy of mine had like met him, or he was in law enforcement. He's like, hey, you should have him on your show. He's running for re-election. He comes in here, dude. I'm like, I don't even know what questions that, like, it was the most absurd, ridiculous, embarrassing. I look back and I was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe. I greatly appreciate where you're coming from. Like, you got it. Like, there is no easy direction to go. You just have to start going.
Well, and a handful of times along the way, more than a handful, like way more than I deserved, someone that actually did know up from down, either in the government, either another founder that had started a business before, either scientists that took time out of their day to hear us out, to give us feedback. Like those mentors, those people that, maybe we only had a couple conversations with, that were willing to help us 100x accelerated where we are now relative to where we would have been hadn't it been. So like the credit is due to all of those people outside of Rainmaker that have helped us along the way. I'll also just say too, like my head of research, Dr. Caitlin Susky, maybe one of the best and smartest people that I've met in my life. Actually, definitively, I think the best scientist I've met in my life. And when we were just getting started, like it was a small outfit, and she has 2 postdoc experiences and a PhD and is extraordinarily respected in her field of aerosol chemistry. Like all of this is only working because she joined as well. Like that is a 1 in a million person that I think about having the support of every day. And I'm super, super grateful to have her vote of confidence to help me run this org. Like that was a really big deal hiring her.
Where's she based out of?
She's based in Los Angeles.
Dude, I want to go interview this lady.
She's
know
awesome.
About aerosol.
She's in Idaho today. She's in Boise today.
For how long?
I think she's here for a day or 2, actually.
What is she doing here? Is she meeting at the Capitol or something?
She's going to the university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that? I didn't know she was here.
I'll shoot a text.
What department is she meeting with? Who is she meeting with? You can't tell me.
Not yet.
You can't tell me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some phone calls right now.
Yeah.
Is she there? Is she with you, Amy? Is she there? Yeah, I'll do it. I'm like a truffle hound. I'll find her somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I appreciate where you're coming from. It is a mess, right? When you're trying to do something different, it's a mess. Answer me this. How'd you heat up the blades?
Heat up the blade? Oh, on the drones?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would think like you would do anti-icing with like propylene glycol, like bleeding wing drip. You've seen those on airplanes before?
Yeah.
Problem is if you're trying to freeze the cloud and you're emitting antifreeze,
right,
opposite effect.
Right.
So we needed to do it thermally. We laid up resistors under the carbon fiber of the propellers, and the resin of the carbon fiber is sufficiently thermally conductive that the heat gets out, but not so conductive that it actually delaminates and like makes the propeller floppy. Yeah. That's really I'll show you one.
I knew it had to be something like that because I was like, there ain't no way they like ran wires because it's a blade turning, right? So it's like,
that's actually part of it too. So it is still battery power. So one thing we had to solve is how to heat the propeller, but then the other was how to get the electricity in there. there's a slip ring in the brushless motor that's situated in liquid mercury. And so even though it's spinning at 3,000 RPM, you actually conduct the electricity through the slip ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I'm talking about.
That one's really cool.
That is, I want to see these designs.
Yeah.
I assume you have patents on this stuff.
It's IP, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I want to talk to some of these people.
Yeah, you can talk to the engineers. They're awesome.
I love it. And again, like, who knows? Like, if people want to take shots at you now and be like, hey, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. That doesn't mean we're not getting closer, right? And it doesn't, like, I have such appreciation for somebody who's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But I learn fast.
Yeah.
God bless him, man. Listen, we talked about way too many things today. Is there anything you want to hit here at the end?
No, dude. I think that we covered the bases. I'm super grateful that we're getting to make more snow for Bear Lake and the Bear River Basin. I'm super grateful to get to continue to do that, and think that in the next decade or so, cloud seeding is going to be pretty much dinner table conversation and ubiquitously making water for folks around the West. Dude,
it better be. And let's just acknowledge that the states that have outlawed it, it's like Tennessee and Florida, anyone else? Louisiana. The things that people are anxious about, clouds in the sky, contrail, chemtrail, whatever, those have not gone away. They have not gone away. That's it. They haven't gone away. Nobody has a single organization that they can point to that they are saying these are, like, it has not gone away. If you're worried about looking up in the sky, you can outlaw anything you want. As long as you have airliners coming here to drop people off in Boise, they will not be going away. There's no way to do that. Go to Tennessee. Let's go. Let's do the field trip. If anybody wants to get like independently funded, because I ain't going on my own dollar, I'll go with you to Florida and we'll just look up for a couple days and just record the whole thing. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's still there, man.
Yep.
God bless it. It's the best. Anyway, Augustus, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Let's do this again when you're back in town.
For sure. And I'll connect you to Caitlin right now.
Yeah. Dude, is everybody down in LA?
No. They're spread out. They're Oregon, LA, Salt Lake, Pocatello.
Oh, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
But where's like your main hub? Where's your headquarters?
So our research hub is in Los Angeles. Our operational hub is in Salt Lake.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Utah people. God bless it. Thank you for coming on, sir. We'll do it again.